In the last episode of INTJ and INFP Water, we discussed the 8 cognitive functions and their permutations that make up the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types. Today, we'll be delving into the 2 perceiving axes so you can more accurately determine your own and others' types. While the 4 judging cognitive functions affect how you make decisions after collecting data, how you choose to act upon the world and your own mind, the perceiving functions primarily deal with how you collect data. It's how you experience the world and your own mind. Perception is both internally and externally focused. So extroverted sensing always pairs with introverted intuition, while extroverted intuition pairs with introverted sensing. Let's start by taking a look at the SE and I axis. SE perceives sensory information in the here and now. It's objective in that it sees objects as they are, divorced from subjective bias. SE observes the physical nature of data and is inextricably linked to tangible reality. For example, if someone is wearing a red dress, SE will see the color and fabric as they are, noticing qualities such as its shade and texture. Or if someone becomes upset during a specific situation, they can perceive and explore all the contextual data in that moment, potentially finding the root cause. Although SE users, like everyone, are capable of storing memories, external present sense data does not automatically trigger memories and associations within them. Thus, the SE user builds a more objective and visceral image of the moment, and forms, along with past moments that shared similarities in physical reality, what I will call one dataset. For example, all instances of women wearing formal dresses or all instances of someone close to them getting upset would constitute a single dataset. If a bunch of SE users are in the same room, they'll see pretty much the same objective reality. However, they may focus on different aspects of the data and come to different conclusions via NI. Introverted intuition arrives at individual understandings, which is a blanket term for conclusions, predictions, personalized meanings, as well as intentions, implications, and trajectories. NI is subject-oriented and thus time-bound. It leaves the current moment to ponder future implications and past causes, intuitively understanding linear time and cause and effect relationships. This is done through making connections among SE data within the data set or between multiple data sets connected by similar underlying causes and patterns, sometimes subconsciously, and forming often accurate conjectures. NI can also adopt others' understandings that fits within their NI framework or their SE experience. With high SE users, they will see all external objective data clearly and secondarily see subjective connections between them. Here, the red dress is one SE data point, the atmosphere of the restaurant is another, and the woman's expression is another. Together, with contextually similar SE data points previously observed in similar situations, such as different restaurants and different patrons, the SE data points can cause NI to form understandings and predictions. She chose this red dress to impress her date, he picked this restaurant to impress her, she'll probably get cold later, etc. Though NI is subjective, NI users can of course occasionally come to similar conclusions. With high NI users, they will see their own subjective, previously formed or acquired patterns and trends clearly and secondarily see the objective external data. The location of the high-end restaurant may conjure thoughts of the negative effects of gentrification. The style of the dress may conjure thoughts of pondering whether how one dresses reflects how shaped they are by societal gender roles. However, observations of SE data points, for example, of the woman paying for dinner, may modify the user's perceived NI patterns. For now, let's move on to the SI and E axis. Unlike SE, SI is subjective. It perceives objects in the external world, then immediately experiences subjective memories and associations related to the objects. The moment leaves not an objective image but a subjective impression in the SI user. Thus, 2 SI users in the same room can have totally different associations from the same data. For example, one might see the dress as seduction, while the other might see femininity, or confidence. Just as NI users can come to similar conclusions occasionally, SI users can have similar associations, especially when it comes to objects that have achieved cultural significance, such as red roses. The red dress can remind the SI users of all other red dresses in the past in one's own experience, as well as second-hand experiences like reading about it or seeing it on TV. Depending on the other scenarios in which red dresses appeared, SI forms personal associations. Thus, while experiencing a moment, SI often branches out of the current dataset and makes connections to other datasets. Therefore, data that doesn't have any similarity in its physical nature or role in objective reality becomes associated on the sensory level to the SI user. For example, the winding of a river and the silhouette of a cello may both give rise to an association to feminine energy, ebbing and flowing, even though rivers and cellos have no concrete objective connection to each other nor to womanhood. NE, like SE, is objective. However, it's oriented towards conceptualizations instead of physical reality. NE is often described as future-oriented and focused on possibilities, but I have a slightly different interpretation. Like SE, NE is objective and present-oriented. Unlike NI, it does not naturally commit to one future likelihood. Rather, NE perceives everything that could happen based on the current dataset plus all SI connections as equally real. Thus, unlike NI, NE is not sensitive to linear time nor cause and effect, but finds endless conceptual potential in the present through SI associations. A high SI user will see all personal and past associations to present data clearly and secondarily see objective conceptualizations of the data. For example, the red dress is associated with power, the atmosphere of the restaurant with seduction, the couple's eye contact with persuasion. Their NE might react to these associations and explore how power balance in business relationships and personal relationships could be connected. A high NE user will see all objective conceptualizations of present data clearly and secondarily see personal and past associations to the data. The train of thought might unfold as follows. The water she's drinking reminds me of femininity and also the moon because of tides. Oh yeah, the menstrual cycle might be related to the phases of the moon. Hey, blood is also red, like her dress. Maybe she has cramps and is avoiding alcohol. If a tsunami were to occur right now, I wonder if she would try to save her date. Their SI might remember past experiences on dates where they avoided alcohol. These thoughts occur rapidly and take wild tangents. The ideas are rarely as accurate or useful as NI understandings, but NE, through the force of its breadth and prolificness, sometimes stumbles upon undiscovered gems, combinations previously unthought of, sparking new ideas. In general, extroverted perceiving functions are objective, externally evident, and timeless or present-oriented, while introverted perceiving functions are subjective, often evident only to the user and time-bound, or past and future-oriented. A high SE user tends to be very adept at experiencing the present moment as it is, reaping the perks of fast reflexes and awareness of their environment, and often control of and potential manipulation of present elements. However, they may not be as strong in seeing overarching patterns underlying their experiences. Each data point is extra vivid, but because each individual data point is so fleshed out, the high SE user might have trouble forming conjectures coalescing the data. A high NI user tends to be so naturally filled with subjective trajectories accumulated from their previous experiences that strange and sudden SE data can overwhelm them. Sometimes, when a data point is so outside their NI scheme, they might not immediately know how to incorporate the new information. Forming new patterns can be time-consuming, and as such, they might miss some present opportunities or the nuances of SE data, or adhere to their current NI framework even when they encounter SE data which disproves it. A high NE user is constantly experiencing all the possibilities they can foresee as equally real. This comes in handy during creative exercises like brainstorming, but because they lack the objectivity granted by SE, they don't naturally see the likely trajectory. Without a strong anchor of SI telling them what worked in the past, high NE users often have difficulty seeing which possible outcomes are more likely, and thus prefer to keep the possibilities open until the last minute. A high SI user is seeing each experience through the matrix of their past experiences and associations, which they continually build upon. Over time, the subjective storage of information reveals personalized preferences, which can be an efficient and reliable way for the high SI users to experience the world. However, with low NE, they might distrust the chaos of possibilities, make the same associations over and over again, and become entrenched in their ways. The tension between the two functions of one perceiving axis is more pronounced if the perceiving functions make up the first and fourth functions of the cognitive function stack, such as the case for introverted judgers and extroverted perceivers, and less pronounced or more harmonious if the perceiving functions occupy the middle or the second and third functions of the function stack, like with introverted perceivers and extroverted judgers. Your perceiving axis makes up half of your cognitive processes in MBTI, and next month we'll be back to discuss the other half, the judging axis.